back, peeps. You guys ready for this one? Here, come in the van. And I'm gonna show you our plan to cover off all of our 80/20 with our wood paneling, not using any screws at all. And I feel once this project's complete, this is gonna give you guys a really good idea of what the interior is gonna be like when Romer's all finished. So hit that subscribe, stick around, and let's get this started. Okay, so here's the deal. Actually, let's start from inside the van. So when working with this 80/20 aluminum framing, there's a few different ways of seeing people put paneling or face their aluminum framing. The first way leaves the front edge totally exposed, in which you take a piece of wood and you fit it into the extruded aluminum groove to make your wall inside with that groove that's already inside there. But myself, I really don't want to be staring at the aluminum. At the end of the day, I don't even want you to realize it's aluminum framed. So to actually cover this framing itself, the other way I've seen is people using mechanical fastening. So either like the battery station that we did back there, you bolt in through from behind, which means you got to use at least a 1/2 inch thick piece of material to be able to screw into. Or the other way is right through the front, we're aligning those holes, and then you got to stare at screws in the front of your wood paneling. Just wasn't for me. And as well, to stay with the weight saving technique of using aluminum framing, putting 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch ply on top of all this, you're probably heavier than you would have been if you just used wood framing for the whole structure. So what I've decided to do is something I haven't seen anybody do yet. Now, I should probably be careful with saying I'm the first person to do this, because in today's world, the chances of that are slim to none. But I have not seen anybody document this type of process with wall paneling inside of a van that I could find. I looked everywhere trying to find some results, as well as some of the different processes that could be taken. But anyways, the product we're using is called a thermally fused laminate, or otherwise known as TFL. You can get any texture, any color that your heart could ever imagine. This product is a moisture resistant wood, as well as fireproof. And I'll link the website down below. It's not affiliated, but at least you can go in and see what's available for you. Now we're going with a 6 mil thickness, and it's super light, which is obviously super beneficial inside of a van. Now, because we're going with the 6 mil thick, there is no room to put screws in through behind it because it's just too thin. So as you guys know, if you've been following us along, we have been doing a ton of testing with different adhesives on wood, as well as the TFL paneling itself. And I've tried all different kinds of products, but we're not here to compare products as to what did work, what didn't work. I'm just gonna talk about where I got the idea and which one did work. So the idea for me came from the oil and gas industry, where I was seeing trucks get built with aluminum frames and aluminum panels, and instead of putting rivets in them, they were using the 3M VHB tape, which I'm sure many of you guys have heard of before. Now, I did do a test with some of the 3M tape on the aluminum with some wood, and no matter how long you leave it on for, as you know, we've done freezer tests, oven tests, shock tests, and this one here, even when it hasn't been heated or cooled, I can yank it apart. So the product we decided to go with after over a year of testing is the Lepage PL construction adhesive. So this is good for multiple surfaces, not limited to, but including aluminum and wood, which is perfect for what we're doing. And it stays flexible under a huge temperature range so that we don't have to be concerned whether we're winter camping or hot Mexico summer camping. We know this PL glue is not going to release off of our aluminum and our wood products. Now, we all know how marketing is, so I had to do my own testing as mentioned, and I've been doing this for well over a year now. And if you've been following along, you probably know about most of it. But I started with a 2x2 piece of wood on our aluminum. I put this in the trunk of my car about 13-14 months ago. So it's been through winter, it's been through summer, back through winter again, from -40 to +40, and all the humidity that would build up inside of a trunk of a car, and it's solid, not going nowhere. I did also put it on a piece of our TFL product that we're using inside the van, and I have taken this thing and slammed it against the ground so many freaking times And the worst that's happened is it's actually cracked that laminate coating that's over top of the wood. It has not come off this at all. And last but not least, I did it on some of our 1/8 inch plywood because we are going to be using it on that, like in a cabinet that you're going to see coming up here right quick. And this stuff I've done in the oven, I've done it in the freezer, I've slammed it against the ground, and I did finally get it to break off by peeling it really, really hard. And it did peel off, but it left a whole section of the wood behind. It would not release from the wood nor the aluminum. The actual wood came apart first. And as I mentioned, this stays nice and flexible. Like when you pull the glue off, you can bend it and twist it. And that is a huge positive because now I know as we drive down the road and we have all those vibrations, especially on gravel roads or through the hot to cold transitions, it can expand and contract and move around enough that it'll never crack off. So let's go build a template for our walls so we can get this party started. Oh, and one more bonus I almost forgot to tell you about is that no trees were harmed in the making of our wall panels because this is all recycled and repurposed wood, meaning we're helping the environment, my friends. Now to make a template for our paneling, we're gonna use our corrugated plastic again, using 4x8 sheets. I'm just gonna clamp them into place, and then we're just gonna use a sharp knife and just follow the aluminum framing across the line to cut out the pieces so we end up with a nice, clean, rigid template from the corrugated plastic. Now as you'll see, for the most part, it gave us really clean lines all the way around, everything we need to cut out and go around, which is gonna be a perfect template. But as I got to this section, I started realizing that for us to have a cabinet inside here, I'm actually gonna have to assemble this cabinet area first before I can finish putting this paneling on. So let's start here. So these sections here need to be filled in with a piece of wood so we got something to adhere to with the internal wall of our cabinets. So I'm gonna take a piece of cardboard, place it up against the ceiling, stencil it out with the pen just like we did before, transfer that into a piece of plastic, make sure it all fits together, and then cut it into a piece of wood so now it fits right into here. And you'll see on these bottom frames we're working on, I did pre-drill some holes in all of them so that when we put that piece of wood in, we can now screw right up to the bottom, and then we put some KREG holes in the top part, which we can screw right into the wood ceiling. And check it out, now with those cross beams in, we just went from having a solid frame structure to an absolutely bulletproof structure. So with that being done, now I gotta line the inside of this area, which is gonna be a cabinet. First thing I'm gonna do is put our aluminum frame in. And now that we have all this bottom framing in place, it's time to mount in the side walls. So I put a little bit of wood on the bottom just to give those walls something to adhere to, because we're gonna put those in the exact same way we're putting our wall paneling up, but just using 1/8 inch plywood, something nice and thin, just so it's covered up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the same plastic template that we already made for up in this spot. We'll transfer it onto another larger piece, just so we have that top line cut out, but it'll be longer, like the side panel has to be. And the easiest way I've found to get a nice straight line is obviously make sure your blade is brand new and change it often, and then just push just to break through the first layer. Go nice and slow. Gives you a nice straight line, and then go back into that groove and push a little harder, and now the blade will just follow that line. And everything just pops off and you get a nice perfect straight line. And now we have a piece that fits the groove at the top, and we just got to get it to fit in the rest of the way. And you'll end up with a template that looks just like this. Look how smooth that fits in. So now we'll just trace this on to our plywood itself. And the cool part is that this template will be transversable and be able to do this wall as well. So easy peasy. But before we actually make this wall and put it in, we have to deal with the ceiling and the back side of our cabinet. So let's do the back side of the cabinet first, which we're just gonna paint with our melamine paint. and we just give it a light spraying like we did everything else. Now I did put a little bit of plastic down, but all the stuff in here does not matter if we get paint on it because, well, you won't be able to see any of it when it's done. See? And it starts looking like that. So I will change out, I put that wire cover over just so we didn't paint those wires. We'll just put a new cover over. You gotta wait till the end of the video though, my friends. You hit that subscribe. That side or that side? One of them, hit them. So now that that's all dry, we now move up to the ceiling. The same way as we did the last video, we use our spray glue, our underlay, and our tweed fabric. We glue them all together, and when we go to the van, it now looks like this inside the cabinet. Look at that. It matches the exterior hallway ceiling perfectly and just gives it a nice, warm, clean feeling again. So if you want to see how we did that, just go back to the video prior to this one, and we'll talk about how this whole ceiling got installed and what we did with it. But now, we're gonna move on to the side panels. So from those plastic templates we made earlier, I've now made it into 1/8 inch plywood and just painted it with our melamine paint again. And they will just slide right up into place there. So what I did, I marked out the back side so I know where we can put our PL construction adhesive. I'm just gonna lay the adhesive down. And then just press the panel in place. Let's use a couple clamps. Just make sure everything's pressed up there solid. Then we'll do that to both sides and let her sit for a few more hours. See? And there it is a few hours later. It's solid. They're not going nowhere. I'm pretty happy with that. What do you think? So now it's time to move to the challenging part and the whole reason why I wanted to build this before putting the facing on. But I want to take a quick moment because one comment that we keep getting is that, Jeff, you make it look so easy on the video. And I want to be careful with that because yes, I want to put out there that no matter what your skill set or what you think your capabilities are, if you put your mind to it, take your time and do it step by step, yes, it can be done. But I do not want that to be confused with thinking that, hey, if I do it this way, it's going to be easy, because I'm telling you it's not. This is by far the hardest thing I've ever taken on by myself. And every time you think you're getting ahead, another challenge hits you in the face. So I just wanted to apologize to say that I don't want to make this feel easy, because it's not. But in the same breath, I can't sit there and show you all my struggles because, well, then our videos would be like 3 hours long, and some of that stuff of me just sitting around staring at things is pretty boring to watch on TV. For instance, while this stuff was all drying and held in place, I was starting to play around with around the shower area and how all of our trim is going to go on there and mount up. While I was sitting here figuring that out, I started thinking, wait, our shower build is coming up like very, very soon, and I haven't bought a toilet paper roller, toilet paper roll holder yet. And although such a small thing, the type of one I want, you need to do it ahead of time. So you need to have that, because you can't just have a standard toilet paper roll on a roll when it's a wet bath, because as soon as you have a shower, it's gonna get wet, obviously, right? So then I sat there on my phone, started looking around trying to find the right toilet paper roll holder. 5 hours later goes by and it's like, holy crap, this kid needs to get to bed. And that's just for a simple toilet paper holder. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, on with this shelf. So now we're ready to put the base in on here. And as I mentioned, this is the reason why I wanted to build this ahead, because down below right here, this big area right there, that's gonna be our fridge. Yes, it's huge, and it's coming up in our next video. So subscribe, bell, all those things, and heck, even share our video. Let's get this out there, my friends. So because the fridge is going in here, this is why I needed to face all of this stuff here before I've built a single cabinet on this side. Because our fridge, once it goes in here, it's so large that it cannot come back out again. Unless you pulled all this cabinetry apart, you will not get that fridge out of there Again, not happening. So all the compressor and everything like that is on the top of the fridge though, which means as long as we have, as long as we have access through this top side here, we will be able to service that fridge, but we'll never be able to replace that fridge, which I'm cool with because the fridge we chose, it's badass. So for the base of our shelf, we're gonna use a 1/2 inch sanded ply. I'm gonna cut it into 2 pieces. Then I'm gonna do a 1/4 inch dado on the bottom side of one edge and on the top side of the other edge, so that when I can slide them into place, they clip together. Then I'm just gonna use some 2x2 wood, cut it down, make a lip on the front of it, glue it all together, and bada bing, bada boom. Look how good that all fits together, eh? That dado cut worked absolutely perfect. So now you'll see it split down the center. Nice clean lines. And if we needed to, we'd be able to lift this up and out to get in there. It's really tight, so I'm debating if I'm actually gonna paint it or not. I might just leave it wood. That's that. That's the shelf done and done. So now I'm just going to adhere some wood edging to some of the edges around where the door frames are gonna be, around the shower and stuff. So you might ask, why would I glue this wood onto these edges like I have on our aluminum framing? And the reason is quite simple. First off, when you open up this cabinet, it's gonna give a wood feeling instead of just the aluminum feeling. Number 2, when we put our trim, when we get our top edges or our thick edges cladded here, we have a piece of laminate, okay? When it goes up against there, we do still need to edge that edge, as well as when you have an edge down here, you have to edge that edge as well, or else it's just gonna look like unfinished wood. When I was initially planning this, talking with my wood guy that got this stuff, he said on the 6mm stuff, you can just paint the edge and you'd never notice it. It'll be totally fine. Well, I've gone and I've painted the edge, and I'm sorry, it just, the white is like next to impossible to match, and I'm not happy with that look. There's no way I'm gonna have an open edge sitting like that on there. It's just not gonna happen. Now, on the 3/4 inch stuff that I haven't showed you yet that we have for our doors, we have the edge, like the band trimming that we're gonna be able to put on there. And we'll talk more about that when we do the drawer. But on the 6mm, it's just so thin, it's gonna be next to impossible. So what I've decided, we have this silver trim where it's got a short edge on one side and it's 3/4 inch down the face side where our panel's gonna be. But on this bottom edge, we also have to do that side. So if I didn't put this wood on here and went to do that, the 2 directions would be overlapping each other and it wouldn't work out. We'll go in more detail about this when we get to the actual trimming portion of all of our cabinets. But for now, I just had to show you my forward thinking as to why we had to widen this. As well, on the side here, it's gonna be easier for me to screw in the bendy things, hinges. It's gonna be easier for us to screw in our hinges to the wood as opposed to the aluminum, like I had to do with the fridge. So I've had to have a couple people come over this week to help me put in the fridge and take out the fridge so that I could pre-mark these spots on the frame where the fridge is actually gonna screw into. So when you put the fridge in, it's gonna screw in to the aluminum frame. And then on the shower door, we actually had to test fit our shower door so that it fit in here properly, proper height and everything. But also, again, with that edging, when I come off from behind the shower door, if I go like that, and then with that fridge flange, if we put it out, they'll be overlapping each other again. So I had to put this in to gain the space so the fridge edge will actually have like a thin strip of white up this whole strip once it's actually all said and done. Then as a final touch to our shelf here, we did put a screw down through the front edge just to hold everything down. So we just used a bolt into our 5/16 T-nut slider, bolted it right down, and because of our dado that we put in on this edge right here, it holds down this side, which means nothing can come out. And because it's built out of all the 80/20, I've put a big battery up in here just to show you it's absolutely solid. You could put anything you wanted up there, guaranteed. I could climb in there if I was smaller and it would hold me up. And we will have a blocker back here to block off those wires. That'll come in time. And just look how nice that seam looks on our first ever dado cut. What? But now you're here with me in the editing room, and unfortunately I can't make this video any shorter, and I've held you guys here way too long already on this episode. The good news is that the project's complete. I just gotta edit up the video. So that means you're gonna see me in a couple days. The bad news, well, this video, that's that.
Perfect.